Now, as far as your relationship with the defendant, Miss Reed, prior to January 29th, 2022, how would you characterize it?
I thought we had a good relationship. I held her in very high regard. I thought she was a good influence on my niece and nephew. I appreciated all the help that she was providing to my brother with the kids. We'd go out together as, couples a couple times. She became very friendly with my wife, but I'd say overall we had a good relationship.
Now, you had the phone call with the defendant. You indicate it's fine for her to come over. You know about how long it was after receiving that phone call and when Miss Reed arrived there?
20 to 30 minutes, maybe.
And when she arrived at your brother's house, who, if anyone, was she with?
She was with her father.
And at some point, was there anyone else from her family that came over the house that morning as well?
Her brother and his wife showed up shortly after she arrived with her father, yes.
And how many cars, if you know, come in between sort of the...
They each took separate vehicles, so 2 cars arrived.
And Miss Reed's vehicle, do you know where that vehicle was in relation to your brother's house at that time?
It was either in the driveway or in the garage. I'm not positive.
Okay. So fair to say it was at the house, correct?
It was at the house, yes.
So between the Reed family, there's 3 vehicles at your brother's house now, correct?
Correct.
Now, the defendant, you mentioned that you had met her father before on Christmas Eve, is that right?
Correct.
Had you met her brother or brother's wife prior to that day?
No.
And you were in the house when they arrived, is that correct?
When Karen and her father arrived, I was shoveling the walkway out front.
And in total, about how much time was the defendant at your house that morning when she came in?
I would probably say about 30 minutes.
And at that point, when the defendant arrived, was either Kaylee or Patrick or both home at that time?
Yes. Kaylee had come home first, and then Patrick had come home. So I think Patrick may have come home while they were there.
And you mentioned when they arrived, you were out shoveling sort of the front walk, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when they arrived, did you go in the house with them, or did you continue shoveling or something else?
I continued shoveling for a very short period of time, and went in the house like pretty much right after they did.
And when you got in the house, what was it sort of that you were doing at that time?
I mean, we had just told Kaylee what had happened, and we were waiting for Patrick to get home, so we were kind of just congregated in the kitchen.
When you say we, who exactly are you talking
Sorry, myself, my mother, my father.
Was Miss Roberts still there, or has she gone home?
I don't recall.
And so, in addition to yourself, your mother, and your father, Miss Reed, her father, any other sort of members of her family, where were they within the house at that time?
So mainly the kitchen at first. When Patrick came home, we kind of took him to like the side room where the kids hang out. Talked to him in that room. And then we were in the kitchen. Then Miss Reed and her father went upstairs.
And when you sat down with Patrick to tell him what had happened to your brother, who, if anyone else, was with you at that point?
Karen Reed.
And at some point subsequent to that, you went back to the kitchen, correct?
Yes.
And where was it that the defendant and her father went?
Upstairs, into the bedroom.
And if you know, about how long were they in the upstairs area of the house?
I would say 10 to 15 minutes.
And them as they came down the stairs?
Yeah, so I was on the phone a few times. So I didn't watch them walk upstairs, but I saw them come downstairs, turn the corner at the bottom of the stairs. She had some of her belongings that she had taken from the bedroom.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, how is everybody? Wanted to talk today about the showdown, the mano a mano between Paul O'Keefe and Aidan Turtleboy Kearney, and why I'm wondering out loud if this family is getting the support they need and is getting the right advice. And how these kind of basically, how do I put this? Interacting with a psychopath is not a good idea. And by the people that have worked with Aidan Kearney, that know Aidan Kearney, certainly the word psychopath is thrown around often. And the only way to deal with a psychopath, or even a narcissist at minimum, mano a turtle, that's right, the society page, is to go no contact. So dealing with a psychopath, the best way is to go no contact, or a narcissist, and there is no winning. So Paul O'Keefe may think that by contacting, messaging Aidan Kearney, that he's going to somehow protect his family, protect his brother's memory, get justice for his brother. There is no winning in this situation. And Aidan Kearney, in my opinion, will always make himself the victim, even if he has to go out of his way to provoke someone into acting in some small way and then yell out that he's being harassed and get protection orders. He abuses the court, in my opinion, with these protection orders. And we'll talk about the protection order that he's just extended to Kate Peter, and how I think he's really the Jesse Smollett of the Karen Reed story. Let me start. It's a lot of information, right, guys? Let me start with the messages sent between Paul O'Keefe and Aidan Turtleboy Kearney. If you don't know who he is, he's the blogger that Karen Reed used to leak evidence out, according to the court filings in the witness harassment case. So Karen Reed was using Aidan Kearney as a publicist for her innocence fraud campaign. That's my take on it. And let me just go back. I had this all set up, but now, okay, here we go. Here we go. And she used him to harass witnesses, to leak evidence, and now he has multiple witness harassment, witness intimidation charges against him, and he is going to trial on those charges, to fight those charges. He now has a new lawyer, Bedero. I don't know. I've seen him on Twitter often defending Karen Reed. So it starts out with if Paul. Okay, so this is like the Paul O'Keefe sent me threatening messages at 1 a.m. while on vacation with the Sullivan sisters Saturday night. This led to a bizarre back and forth that ended with him agreeing to go on a double date chauffeured by Grant Smith Ellis. I'm sure that was, and admitting that one of the McAlbert lackeys committed perjury. He even, this is of course Aidan's, what Aidan Kearney got from it. He even agreed to donate to my legal defense fund if I beat him in golf. There's never a dull moment in this case. So it starts off with, I'm taking you down. I hope you know that. You're done. So he's sending these things at 1:05 a.m., July 27th. You are going to jail again. So this is actually prison this time. I hope your kids are prepared. I so look forward to that. And Aidan writes back, drinking again, Paul, question mark. Adderall, Aidan, you spelled it wrong, says Aidan. Both words. I don't do drugs and I'm not a douche, so I'm okay with that. That's the first thing he says. I mean, this is just so ill-advised to do. But at one point, so these are just, he's just giving us snippets of this conversation. At one point, Paul screenshotted our convo and sent it to me with a message, your ex-boyfriend. I believed he intended to send this to another woman, but he was clearly hitting the sauce, so I gave him a pass. And Paul O'Keefe vowed to get me back in prison, bought my 9 and 6-year-old kids into it. See how Aidan is always the victim? It's very much like Karen Reed, always plays the victim, rarely brings up Paul O'Keefe's name. And I mean, John O'Keefe's name, excuse me. And this is how the Free Karen Reed side works. Said that he was looking forward. I mean, they live for this kind of stuff to make you the villain, because they can't have Karen Reed be the villain, not the woman who, according to every single first responder, practically said some variation of, it's my fault. I hit him. I hit him. I hit him. Is he dead? I hit him. In addition to Kaylee, John O'Keefe's daughter, said she was saying these remarks in addition to Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts. There's so many people, in addition to her own father, and we'll get into that. Said she hit something, according to her father. And strangely, that all is consistent with all the forensic evidence, the DNA in the casing of her taillight. The taillight pieces that exactly where she left John O'Keefe off, that could not have been planted, because the CERT team was at the scene when the car was at the same, before the car, as the car was being taken to the Sally part. So the timing doesn't. So if you ask a Free Karen Reed person how this grand conspiracy worked, they can't tell you. They can only pick apart tiny minutiae of the evidence and pick it apart and say, isn't that strange? Butt dials. Vague corruption. The only thing in this case that says corruption is the investigations that so far have come up with nothing, that Karen Reed, with her family connection, started herself with that purpose exactly. So you have one side that's extremely strategic, and you have the O'Keefe family that is emotionally devastated, is at a breaking point, is emotionally weak, and may not be thinking straight in their best interest. So Paul O'Keefe vowed to get me back in prison, brought my 9 and 6 years old kids into it and said that he was looking forward to them not having a dad. See, he's the bad guy, not the guy who harasses witnesses and says terrible things about the victim and the victim's family. So they're very quick, these people, to turn the tables, and made a joke about prison essay. My words, not his. He also mocked me for the felony charges against me, which are a direct result of me, he says, me seeking justice. They love to use that word justice for his murdered brother by confronting and exposing the people who murdered him. No, it's by making up a false narrative to protect Paul O'Keefe's brother's killer, in my opinion. Paul O'Keefe says, thank you so much. We're going to hold the McAlberts responsible for what they did to your brother. And Paul writes, do you think your cellmate will be attracted to you? So all this anger is built up over this trial, is just spilling out. Why would I have a cellmate? I haven't committed any crimes. Only 19, meaning the 19 felony counts against him. Why are you suddenly messaging me, Paul? We spoke before on Jonna's account and you blocked me. Just reminding you where you are going, pal. And he writes, ? Like you don't already know. Things got weird when he said he wanted to spend time with me and be best buds. I was skeptical, but I'm still open to hearing him out. So he writes, my mother says hello, by the way. That's Paul O'Keefe speaking. Aidan writes back, I hope Josh Levy delivers justice for John. You're both in my prayers. See, so manipulative. You're both in my prayers as I'm working double time to enrich myself while looking to exonerate the killer of your brother. You are as well, my friend. Thank you. Much love, bro. Glad we are friends again. Didn't know you ever stopped. What are your Labor Day plans? We're doing some standouts. Would be honored for your guys to join us for Justice for JJ. So the Free Karen Reed side are taking over the moniker Justice for JJ. I couldn't think of a better way to waste my time. Thanks for the heads up. So this is a perfect example of when you think you're winning something when you're actually losing it. We should hang out soon. I'm confused by what you mean, Aidan says. By this, taking me where? I would love, all this. I'd love to spend time with you. Agreed. I've had a change of heart. You seem very genuine. We could be best buds. You being serious 100%. Obviously, he's being sarcastic. And Aidan will use all this to further his own propaganda. I agreed to play him in golf, but if I won't, he had to donate $5,000 to the Karen Reed or Turtleboy defense funds, whichever he liked more. If he won't, I would donate $500 to Chris Albert's charity pizza shop. He agreed and didn't disagree with it. Chris Albert is running a charity. So let's see what he says. Paul O'Keefe says, Aidan Kearney says, let's make it interesting. If I win, you donate $500 to the Turtleboy or Karen Reed Legal Defense Fund, whichever one you like more. If you win, I will buy $500 worth of D&E charity pizzas to donate to the charity of your choice. Deal. And Paul O'Keefe says, deal. See, we can do better than we have been doing. We are both assholes, but we have big hearts. I would donate to you, by the way. I think I like you more. My legal fees definitely went up as a result of the 226 hearing. Did you really invite her? I thought we were bros. Bitches be crazy. I didn't. So he's saying I didn't invite Lindsay, his ex-girlfriend, to the hearing. And here is Lindsay under oath saying she did. Hold on one second. Let me get off this post and scroll down and show you. Did I go too far? I think I did. Hold on one second. I have it pulled up, and so many of these tabs pulled up. It's crazy. Thank you for your patience. I have it. I'll come back to it. But that is basically where I think that I talk about the Adelson case, the murder of Dan Markel. And Dan Markel's mother worked with a man who also dealt with a court system as a victim. I believe had a child who was murdered, and she called them in her book her I think it was like her murder advocate, or her murder tutor, something like that. And I think this is what the O'Keefe family desperately needs. Okay, here it is. Let me share it with you. I found it. Thank you for your patience. They desperately need someone who can tell them how to deal with this kind of innocence fraud campaign and to deal with it strategically. And I don't know who told the O'Keefe family not to talk to the press, or if they were told not to the press, but they need to be giving interviews as a family together, and as many as possible, and get as much attention to their side of the story as possible. It's great to have Paul O'Keefe out there, but it's not as powerful as to have the entire O'Keefe family out there advocating for their brother. And when you interact with someone like Aidan Kearney, it will always be twisted to his benefit. It's just a really poor idea. And when Paul O'Keefe gave that interview and said, we'll take any of the help that we can get, I think he was just speaking very off the cuff and very honestly, but it makes you look desperate. And I don't know how helpful it is to have people on this side of the fence saying, oh, it's manslaughter. Adam Lally gets it wrong. It's manslaughter. It's murder too. I mean, the woman is a murderer. How do you deny her car, that she had a huge screen? She had a beeping of her car before she hit anything. Her car would beep, 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 really loud, like a fire alarm. And she never gets out to look at her taillight. And she tells her father, I think I hit something. I just kept driving on and on and on. It could have been John O'Keefe. That's what Murder 2 is about. Knowing when you act recklessly in that manner, that it's in the realm of possibilities that you're going to might fatally injure someone when you drive backwards 24 miles an hour and never hit the brakes, even though she had automatic braking. So, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Anymore. It's just here's apparently Linz swearing that
Now, with respect to February 26th, who invited you to go to the Karen Reed hearing?
The family of this deceased officer, John O'Keefe.
The whole family, or was it a specific person?
Specific person.
Who?
Paul O'Keefe.
Paul O'Keefe. How do you know Paul O'Keefe?
I have met many of the witnesses in the case against Mr. Kearney.
So there you go. So did she misunderstand? Was Paul O'Keefe telling the truth? I don't know. I mean, it's anyone's guess, but I just think that this is extremely, extremely unwise to do. So let me hold on one second. The other thing I want to talk about is Karen Reed. Should there be a rehearing that we haven't heard any of the evidence in her trial about from her parents? Why haven't we heard any of the evidence from her parents? Why weren't they called as witnesses? And why were we not allowed to hear about Karen Reed's 1 p.m., I believe it's like 1:06, search where she's looking for a lawyer? She's looking for a DUI lawyer. Why was that not allowed in to court? And why would, for all the free Karen Reed people, why was that not allowed in? I don't understand. Can someone explain it to me? And why did no one ask about Richie the plumber? Does anybody want to take a guess where she says, "Oh, I called the plumber," or she's having all these conversations with a plumber, but no, it's like it magically disappears. She goes off to Dighton. We never hear about that again. And we never hear about any of the police interviews. Nothing. What is going on? So it's very, I don't know. I just think that when you're a victim's family, you have to act, you have to think that there's been mistakes on both sides. If you want to have the moral high ground in this case, then you can't say that you can't be sending messages, even jokingly, even if you think they're funny. You can't send messages around like that. Obviously you can, but if you want to win this, you have to also win in the court of public opinion. And you have to be strategic, and it's very hard when you're so emotional and you're dealing with someone who doesn't have any of those emotions. So psychopaths don't have any of those emotions. They don't feel things the way the rest of us do. So they don't have those impediments to clear and strategic thinking. And I think that they really need someone to give them better advice and steer them through this, because this is a case where we've had the public come into the courtroom. So you're no longer just arguing the case in the courtroom. And if what Paul O'Keefe said is true, that Adam Lally doesn't read or look at social media, that is such a mistake, because I think what we know from the hung jury, that obviously the case has come into, meaning the public case, all the things that are put out in social media have come into the courtroom, and he has to take those things on too. I don't think it's wise to just put your head down and pretend it's not happening. I think the state would be wise to be very aware of what's going on social media, how they look in the public eye, because unfortunately, this is the first case that I've covered of innocence fraud campaign being done in real time, starting way before the trial. And so that when things like butt dials come up, try to have an expert bring back try to explain it. It's just like, oh, those things, we know that they're inconsequential to the overwhelming evidence, but I think that they should be dealt with and explained to the jury so the jury doesn't get stuck into the minutia, because that's what Karen Reed's defense attorneys would want you to do. Because when you look at the totality of the evidence, it's overwhelming. I think this is a really tricky case. It's an unprecedented case. And it's the first time where we've seen things like witness intimidation campaigns, 19 felony counts for witness intimidation. Has anyone seen anything like it? I haven't. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, Kate Peter and Aidan Turtleboy Kearney and his triumph in extending his protection order against the terrifying Kate Peter. When we get back, don't go anywhere. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. Was one video that I thought really encapsulated the entire Free Karen Reed movement. And it was something that happened at the last hearing. And this is taken by Aidan Kearney himself. And I'm going to share it. 1 minute.
Feel unsafe really just walking by here at all. I have a right to walk whatever way I want to walk, though.
She has the right to be here.
No, she's not.
So Aidan Kearney has gone to a police officer because Kate Peter, he has a protection order against Kate Peter, and he seems to have gone right to her and is now asking the police officer to make Kate Peter move. Kate Peter was just holding up a Karen Reed sign and representing the family. So she's just holding up the sign in front of her head, not interacting with Aidan Kearney, and Aidan Kearney is insisting on moving right towards her, passing her, and asking a police officer to move her so he can walk by. Like there's no other way he can walk, and this is something that the police officer will point out. Check it out.
Not if I have an order on her. It doesn't matter if she's here first. Does that matter?
Yes, she has the right to be here also. So
Not if I'm here. Yeah, he doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter who's here first according to an order. You know that, right?
You could cross there and avoid her.
I just crossed. I came from here.
Yeah, but you're intentionally trying to walk near her.
What do you mean intentionally? This is the fastest way.
No, you could walk there. It's a square.
But first of all, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to get something to drink down there because I'm running low on water. She can't be here. I mean, this is an order. She can? You're sure of that?
You're trying to initiate contact with her.
All right. So, I mean, just so we're clear, she's violating the order right now by being within 10 yards of me.
No.
And you're not telling her to leave.
No.
If I want.
Right. So Aidan Kearney, very frustrated with this because the police officers are wise to him and pick up on what he's doing right away. They're like, look, dude, you're trying to interact. And he's like, no, I insist that she move. I'm trying to walk by. I just need some water. I desperately need some water. I'm going to die of thirst if I can't walk by just this way. There's no other way to walk by. And the police are just calling BS on this. So he quickly finds another police officer to try his line on, saying he talked to the other police officer and it's okay with him. That's what it sounds like.
I want to stand here. Really? Okay. All right. Thank you. Sergeant. So I spoke with Officer Caddy, who confirmed with me that
He confirmed with me. He just said, no way. He said, you're initiating contact. He's like, do you see how our Aidan Kearney, anything is twisted back to what he wants to hear? You see why you don't interact with him why it's so unwise, even in joking way, even if you think you're protecting your family or you're letting off some steam, he will use all of it to further his own pocketbook and the Free Karen Read cause and getting revenge on the people that are the biggest threat to him, which is Kate Peter. It's very effective when she does talk, speak up. Karen Read. So he's like, she's got to move. The other officer confirmed it with me that this woman has to move. Will you help me? You know? So under false pretenses, he goes to the second officer.
If I have a right to walk in a straight line, and she needs to move. So can you ask her to move for me so I can walk by safely here?
Oh, that's good. Come on.
Well, I want her to physically move.
No.
No?
No,
Okay. Then I will go. I will fit. No, that's fine. You're not going to protect. You're not going to do your job. That's
right. And he's a terrible officer because he won't do what Aidan Kearney wants. Terrible officer. And with this, he just went to the court and furthered his protection order against Kate Peter to 100 yards. So that's how he works. I mean, he's like, really, you should, he's like Aidan Smollett. He's the Jesse Smollett of the Free Karen Read world. He has more bogus, imaginary. He just said his computer was hacked into. He put up a lot of pornography on his Rumble account and said it was hacked into. He said that dead turtle was put up in front of by Kate Peter. Somehow he knows it's Kate Peter put it up. He's the victim of, and it's being investigated in because he's a victim. Everyone's out to get him. I don't know if you heard of the other woman. It's a Free Karen Reader, said her lawn was targeted by balloons with bleach in them. And one person on Twitter showed that her lawn has looked bleached for at least 10 years. It's looked the same way. And she's like showing like little pieces of balloon knot as evidence. I mean, these people will pretend, the aggressors will pretend to be the victim. And that's what we're getting into. And you do yourself no favors by interacting and interacting badly. And I understand that when you're a family who's been a victim of a horrendous crime like this, that your nerve endings are on the surface and that you need the self-restraint and the patience of Job to get through this, and a lot of self-restraint. But with that, they really need some better support and some better advice, because this is how these campaigns are lost. And already we have the police. The police is capitulating to this deluded and deranged mob. That's what I have for today, guys. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night, everybody.